Welcome back to our journey through time, where we discover how moments of pure panic and desperation created the world we know today. We often think great things are planned, but most of our daily life is built on emergency fixes that just never went away. Let us travel back to a hot July weekend in 1924, where a chef is about to face his greatest professional nightmare. Number 10 is the Caesar salad, born from a kitchen that was completely empty except for some old bread and a few eggs. Hundreds of hungry tourists had crossed the border, and Caesar Cardini was running dangerously low on every single ingredient in his small kitchen. Most chefs would have closed their doors and hidden, but Caesar decided to turn his absolute failure into a grand piece of theater. He rolled a cart directly to the tables, making a massive show of tossing common lettuce leaves as if he were conducting music. He used Mexican limes because he had no lemons, and he prayed that the dramatic flair would distract the guests from his empty. To his utter surprise, the customers went absolutely wild for it, and soon people were driving hundreds of miles just for the experience. That stale bread he was about to throw away became the perfect crouton, adding a crunch that defined the dish for a century. Interestingly, the original recipe never actually contained anchovies, as Caesar believed the dramatic tossing of the leaves was the only flavor needed. Today, we consume 70 million of these accidental salads every year, a global phenomenon born from a chef who simply refused to quit. It proves that sometimes the best solutions are the ones we find when we are forced to dance on the edge of disaster. We celebrate the Caesar salad not just for the taste, but for the spirit of a man who cooked with his very soul. But while Caesar was tossing lettuce, another emergency fix was brewing in a country that had completely run out of its favorite. Imagine it is 1940, and you are running a giant beverage factory, but you have no sugar and no secret syrup left. Number 9 reveals the origin of Fanta, a drink created from the literal garbage of other industries during the dark days of war. Max Keith looked around his empty factory and saw nothing but apple fibers from cider presses and whey from the local cheesemakers. He began a strange experiment, mixing leftover cheese water with fruit scraps to create something that people might actually want to drink today. He told his team to use their fantasy to name the drink, leading to the name Fanta, a symbol of hope and creativity. In a world of rations and hunger, this cloudy and yellowish drink tasted like a miracle, and millions of bottles were sold instantly. After the war ended, the recipe was changed to the orange flavor we love, finally removing the cheese water from the secret formula. What started as a desperate way to keep workers employed is now a billion-dollar brand recognized in every corner of the planet. Max Keith stayed loyal to his company, proving that even when the world falls apart, a little bit of imagination can survive. During the war, Fanta was so popular that people even used it to cook their meals when sugar was impossible to find anywhere. It stands as a monument to human resilience, a reminder that we can find sweetness even in the most bitter and difficult times. Next time you take a sip, remember the cheese water and the apple scraps that allowed this famous icon to exist for us. It was never supposed to be a global success, just a temporary fix to keep the factory wheels turning during a global catastrophe. We learn that waste is only waste until a clever mind decides to see it as the beginning of something beautiful and new. But while we drink our wartime soda, we also rely on a secret handshake that saved the entire world of computing forever. Leaving the fizzy drinks of the past, we dive into a world of blue screens and frozen computers that changed everything today. Number 8 brings us Control-Alt-Delete, the most famous keyboard shortcut in history that was only meant to be a tiny secret. Meet David Bradley, a tired engineer who was sick of waiting 5 long minutes for his slow computer to restart every day. Every time his code crashed, he had to physically turn the machine off and on, wasting hours of his precious creative time. In just 5 minutes, David wrote a simple code that allowed him to reboot the entire system without ever touching the power. He chose these specific keys because they were impossible to press with just one hand, preventing anyone from accidentally wiping their hard. David Bradley once joked that while he might have invented the shortcut, it was actually Bill Gates who made it world famous. Today, billions of people use this panic button every single time their technology fails them, a universal prayer for a digital reset. David never wanted fame for these 3 keys, but his quick and desperate solution saved the entire world from countless digital headaches. It is a survival code for the modern age, a reminder that the best tools are often born from our deepest professional frustrations. With a single tap, we bring our machines back to life, erasing the errors of the past and starting afresh new. David Bradley's unintended legacy lives on in every office and every home, a silent guardian of our collective and very busy productivity. We often forget the man, but we will never forget the magic he gave us to escape the prison of a frozen screen. His 5 minutes of work saved us trillions of hours, a small investment that paid off for the entire human race forever. But while David was fixing computers, a chef in New York was about to turn his anger into the world's favorite snack. It is 1853 at Moon's Lake House, and Chef George Crumb is about to meet the most annoying customer in history. Number 7 reveals the birth of potato chips, a snack created as a salty act of revenge against a very picky man. The customer kept sending his fried potatoes back to the kitchen, complaining that they were far too thick and much too soggy. George Crumb finally lost his patience, decided to teach the man a lesson, and grabbed his sharpest knife for a culinary war. He sliced the potatoes so incredibly thin that they were impossible to eat with a fork, hoping to humiliate the demanding guest. He fried them until they were brittle and dumped a massive amount of salt on them, creating what he thought was garbage. To George's utter horror, the customer loved the crunchy insult so much that he asked for even more of the salty treats. Word spread like wildfire, and soon Saratoga chips became the must-have food for every rich and famous person in the entire country. What started as a chef's angry tantrum is now a $15 billion industry that satisfies the world's deepest and saltiest cravings. George never patented his invention, but he became the king of snacks by simply trying to be the world's most petty chef. The fork was defeated, and the world learned to eat with its hands, changing the way we socialize during our dinner parties. It is the ultimate irony of history that our favorite comfort food was actually intended to be a disgusting and inedible joke. George Crumb's petty genius lives on in every rustling bag of chips, reminding us that sometimes being salty can actually be good. We pay good money for a bag of spite, proving that the best flavors are sometimes seasoned with a little bit anger. But while George was frying potatoes, a chemist was about to create fire by accident, changing the course of human history forever. Number 6 reveals the matchstick, an accidental spark that finally gave humanity the power of the sun at our very own fingertips. In 1826, a chemist named John Walker was stirring a pot of dangerous chemicals with a very simple wooden stick today. He noticed a dried and ugly lump of chemicals had formed on the end of his stirring tool, looking like useless garbage. To clean the wood, John scraped the stick hard against the stone floor of his fireplace, expecting nothing but a loud noise. Suddenly, the stick burst into a bright and beautiful flame, startling the chemist and changing the entire course of human history forever. Before this accidental moment, making fire was a difficult and slow process that required great skill and a lot of ancient patience. John Walker had accidentally democratized fire, making it possible for every poor soul to carry a piece of the sun in there. Remarkably, John refused to patent his invention, believing that such a life-saving tool should belong to all of humanity without any cost. Within a few years, his friction lights were in every home, replacing the heavy and clumsy tools of the old and dark. He died without ever making a single penny from his accidental discovery, a humble man who simply wanted to light the world. The matchstick became a bridge to progress, allowing us to conquer the night and build the industrial world we now live in. It is a reminder that the smallest scrape can lead to the biggest changes, if we are brave enough to watch it. We often forget the name John Walker, but every time we strike a match, we are honoring his beautiful and accidental legacy. Fire was no longer a gift from the gods. It was a cheap commodity sitting in a small box inside your dusty pocket. But while John was making fire, a modern scientist was about to fail so badly that he would change our offices forever. Number 5 explores the sticky mistake of the Post-it note, a failed invention that eventually became the world's most popular organizational tool. In 1968, a scientist named Spencer Silver was trying to create the strongest glue ever known to the modern human race. Instead, he created a glue that was incredibly weak, only sticking just enough to hold paper, but never actually becoming permanent today. For 5 long years, Spencer Silver showed his failed glue to everyone at his company, but nobody could find a real use. Then came Art Fry, a choir member who was frustrated because his bookmarks kept falling out of his hymnal during the Sunday service. He remembered Spencer's weak glue and realized it was the perfect solution to hold his place without ever damaging the precious book. They chose the iconic yellow color simply because the lab next door happened to have some scrap yellow paper lying around that day. At first, people didn't know they needed it, but once they started using the notes, they couldn't imagine a world without them anymore. The Post-it note became our external memory, a place to store the tiny thoughts that would otherwise float away into the void. It is the ultimate lesson in perspective. A failure in the world of glue was a massive triumph in the world of communication. We love the Post-it because it is gentle, allowing us to make mistakes and move our ideas around without leaving a permanent mark. Today, billions of these yellow squares are sold every year, proving that sometimes being weak is much more powerful than being strong. They carry our shopping lists, our passwords, and our messages of love, sticking to our lives in the most beautiful and simple way. Spencer Silver's mistake is now a permanent part of our culture, reminding us to never throw away a bad idea too soon. But while Sarah was sticking notes, a scientist was about to have his lunch ruined by a machine that would revolutionize cooking. Number 4 reveals the microwave, a kitchen miracle that began with a melted chocolate bar in a scientist's busy and very warm pocket today. Meet Percy Spencer, a brilliant self-taught engineer who was working on powerful radar technology during the intense years of the Second World War. He was standing near a magnetron, a vacuum tube that produces microwaves, when he felt a strange and very warm sensation today. He reached into his pocket and found that his favorite chocolate bar had turned into a sticky, gooey mess of delicious brown liquid. Most people would be annoyed, but Percy was curious, so he placed some dry corn kernels near the tube to see what happened. The corn kernels began to pop and dance all over the lab, proving that invisible waves could cook food from the inside out. He then tried an egg, which famously exploded in his colleague's face, proving the incredible and raw power of these silent, invisible waves. Percy Spencer didn't invent a weapon. He invented the first microwave oven, which was originally as giant and heavy as a large refrigerator. It took decades for the machine to shrink, but once it entered our kitchens, it changed the way we eat and live forever. The microwave gave us back our time, turning hours of slow cooking into just a few minutes of intense and very efficient heat. We often take this box for granted, but it is a piece of radar technology that currently lives in your very own home. Percy's curiosity turned a ruined snack into a global revolution, proving that even a messy pocket can lead to a world-changing, brilliant idea. These silent waves vibrate the water molecules inside your food, creating friction that cooks your dinner in the blink of a human eye. Next time you heat up a cold snack, remember the man who ruined his pants just to give you the gift of speed. But while Percy was melting chocolate, a messy doctor was about to find a cure for death inside a forgotten and moldy dish. Number 3 uncovers the miracle of penicillin, a life-saving medicine that was discovered because a doctor forgot to clean his messy laboratory. Alexander Fleming was a brilliant but untidy scientist who went on a long vacation, leaving his dirty petri dishes piled up in sink. When he returned in 1928, he noticed that a strange blue-green mold had started growing on one of his bacteria samples today. He saw a clear circle around the mold where the deadly bacteria had simply vanished, as if they were killed by an invisible. Fleming called the substance mold juice and realized he had found a natural weapon that could fight off the most dangerous human infections. For years, nobody believed him, and it was almost impossible to produce enough of this mold juice to save a single human life. The breakthrough finally came from a moldy cantaloupe found in a grocery store, which provided the perfect strain for mass production of medicine. During the Second World War, penicillin saved millions of soldiers who would have otherwise died from simple infections and dirty, painful battle wounds. This accidental discovery started the age of antibiotics, adding an average of 20 years to the life of every single human being today. Fleming's messiness was his greatest gift, proving that sometimes being perfect is not nearly as important as being observant and very curious. Penicillin became the silent guardian of our health, turning once deadly diseases into minor inconveniences that we can easily cure with a simple pill. Nature had been hiding the cure in plain sight for millions of years, waiting for a messy doctor to finally take a look. Alexander Fleming won the Nobel Prize for his mold juice, a reminder that the world's greatest heroes often have very messy laboratory desks. It shows us how fragile and wonderful life truly is, and how a single mistake can change the fate of our entire race. But as we heal our bodies, we also have to protect our secrets, using a strange substance that was originally a weapon. Number 2 explores the strong and silver world of duct tape, a wartime invention created by a worried mother's loving and brave heart. Vesta Stout worked in an ammunition factory and realized that soldiers were struggling to open their heavy boxes during the heat of battle. The paper tape they used back then was not waterproof and often tore, leaving soldiers exposed and helpless during dangerous and rainy nights. She wrote a letter to President Roosevelt suggesting a strong cloth tape that could be opened easily but would never let the water. The president was impressed by her simple idea and ordered Johnson & Johnson to develop the waterproof green tape that saved countless lives. Soldiers called it duct tape because it shed water like a bird, and they used it to fix everything from jeeps to guns. After the war ended, the tape became silver to match metal heating ducts, officially becoming the duct tape we use in homes. It is now the ultimate tool for any emergency, a symbol of human repair that can hold our broken world together with strength. Vesta Stout proved that a mother's concern can be more powerful than any engineering degree, changing the world with a roll of tape. We carry it in our toolboxes like a silent hero, ready to fight against the chaos of things that break when we need. It has even saved lives in outer space, proving that a mother's simple idea is strong enough to reach the very distant stars. That distinctive ripping sound is the sound of safety, a reminder that we can always find a way to stick things back together. One letter changed everything, showing that anyone with a heart and a clear mind can solve the biggest problems of the entire world. It is the most versatile substance ever created by man, a testament to the power of observation and the will to protect others. But while Vesta was fixing the war, a scientist was about to fail so brilliantly that he created the world's favorite toy. Number 1 reveals the bouncing failure called silly putty, a scientific mistake that was originally intended to help win a global world war. During the Second World War, the United States desperately needed a synthetic rubber substitute because the natural supply had been completely cut off. Scientist James Wright mixed silicone oil with boric acid, hoping for a strong tire material, but he got a weird and bouncy blob. It was a total failure as rubber because it would melt over time and could never hold the heavy weight of a car. For years, the government and scientists looked at the gooey substance and saw absolutely nothing but a useless and very strange chemical mistake. Then a clever marketer saw the fun in the failure, put the goo inside a small plastic egg, and called it silly putty. It became an overnight sensation as children loved how it could stretch like gum, bounce like a ball, and even copy newspaper print. What was meant to be a weapon of war became a source of pure joy, proving that mistakes have a heart of their. It teaches us that failure is only a matter of perspective. What is useless for a tire is perfect for a child's hand. Silly putty even went to the moon on Apollo 8, helping astronauts keep their tools from floating away in the zero-gravity environment. Our world is built on the ruins of our mistakes, a beautiful mosaic made from the pieces of our most desperate and panicked. Do not be afraid to fail, for your next big mistake might just be the thing that the entire world is waiting for. Thank you for exploring the Panic Protocol with us. Please subscribe to join our community of curious minds and discover more human wonders. We will continue to reveal the hidden stories of our world, so stay curious and always look for the magic in your. Sleep well tonight, knowing that even your biggest mistakes can turn into something beautiful and lasting for the rest of the entire world.